under the scope. Scope. My whole life's under the 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 scope. My whole life. My whole life's under the scope. My whole life's under the scope. Word. What up, y'all? This is 300 Blackout, aka Israel, aka Amini the guys. Y'all know what it is. Another episode of Under the Scope. Let's go. I'd like to welcome y'all to the first episode of Under the Scope. I'm Amini the guys, firearms instructor, Second Amendment advocate, conceal and carry weapon permit holder, private security contractor, self-defense trainer, competitive sports shooter. As the CEO and founder of Iron Zulu Defense Company, I've literally introduced hundreds of people to firearm safety and instruction. I don't know everything about guns, and I don't pretend to, but I am willing to share with you what I do know. So with that said, I'd like to introduce you to the first episode of Under the Scope, where we will discuss anything and everything firearms related. We'll cover everything from politics to weapon reviews to live fire drills. You get to travel with me and ride shotgun across the country as we go to gun stores, clubs, and ranges all over. I'll help you guys pick the right gun for the right purpose, and I'll show you how to use it, field strip it, clean it, and keep it alive. Now this show Under the Scope isn't just about me, it's about you. I want you guys on point and sharp as possible. So by all means, drop your comments, ask your questions, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. But enough of all that. Let's get down to it. Today, we're going to cover the Iron Zulu 13 disciplines of firearms. For sake of time and for this episode, I'll briefly describe them all. And this will create the basis for the rest of our show. Remember, each discipline is a science and key factor in improving your overall firearms experience. The Iron Zulu 13 disciplines of firearms are for new shooters and professional shooters looking to sharpen their skills or take them to the next level. Now, outside of these 13 disciplines that I'm going to provide, there are plenty other factors that are going to affect your firearms experience, but these are the essential. So altogether, there are 13 disciplines. There's 1 spiritual, 6 mental, and 6 physical disciplines. Now, I believe the spiritual comes first. If your heart isn't in the right place, you definitely don't need your hands on a gun. If you're not sure about that, the internet's full of videos of people getting their beans knocked off because they didn't know what to do with themselves. So the first discipline, the spiritual discipline, is termed warriorhood. And warriorhood is all about a sense of self-preservation and a sense of justice. It's about knowing when to shoot and when not to shoot. It's also about carrying yourself with a certain level of class and a certain level of camaraderie. Now we get into the 6 mental and the 6 physical disciplines. The 6 mental disciplines precede the physical because before you actually have a physical firearm in your hand, there are certain mental disciplines and certain mental principles and things that you need to be able to deal with and get a grasp on first. And number 1, that is your firearms application. What use are you planning to use the firearm for? There's a giant wide array of applications for firearms, from military use, law enforcement, civilian, conceal and carry, home defense, private security. They're all different types of reasons. And I put this before safety only because what your level of safety is also going to be determined by your use. There are people out here that use firearms to get into scholarships for schools, and their level of safety is going to be one thing. Home protection is going to require a different level of safety versus law enforcement and military, where these guys, their concept of safety is going to be completely abnormal to what the average person's is. So you need to train your level of safety based off of your firearms applications. You need to think about firearms and what is your application. At what point are you going to interact with firearms? Is it going to be through a military or law enforcement career? Are you going to the store the first time to buy something for home protection or self-protection? What is your usage? Let's decide that first. Next, we're going to cover a few topics of safety. Now, safety is just probably one of the single most important rules in firearms. After you've got your heart right, now you know what you're going to use your firearm for. Now it's time to start practicing plain safety. Now it's time to understand the principles of safety. Way before you get a gun in your hand, you need to understand that this is a powerful tool, that it can be potentially dangerous and life-threatening. It can also be life-saving, but you don't want it to be taking lives when your intention is to save lives. And so you need to always think about safety. If this is a home defense gun, or no matter where it's at, it always needs to be properly safe and secured, even if you're in a work position. If you use firearms for your job, then your job is going to most likely already have some safety protocols in play for you to follow. Now, if you're at home, you have to develop your own safety protocols. But the state and many local governments already have some minimum safety requirements, like keeping firearms locked away, and if you have children in the house at all, or children coming over, then your firearms need to be stored in a safe manner in which children or unwanted users can't get hands on them or make use out of them. That often includes gun locks, all different types of things. Now, safety is also a multi-dimensional subject when it comes to guns. It's not just about keeping it away from people's hands. It's about when you have it in your hands, making sure that you are always pointed in the safe direction, knowing where your target is, what is behind your target. Also understanding the various safety mechanisms that are found on your firearms. Almost all modern firearms come with some type of safety locking devices, gun locks, manual safeties that will stop the gun from functioning if you need to. So you need to understand all these different things. You also need to understand transport. When you're transporting your firearm, if you don't have a conceal and carry license, in most states and most places you need to have your firearm and ammunition separate, but you guys are going to be responsible. You need to look up the local firearm safety rules and regulations for your state and your county. Also, something else that's very often not spoken of in the firearm industry, but I think is also a safety concern, is toxicity. A lot of the bullets and things that we are using in the firearm industry do contain lead, which is obviously poisonous to humans in large amounts. And so sometimes if you're at the range a whole lot, it's okay to wear a mask. Certain things, that's why ranges are ventilated, because every time you're firing off a lead round, you're causing this explosion. You're simply causing airborne particles that have been known to be cancer causing. And so also if you're loading, also if you're cleaning your firearm, things like that, you make sure you want to wash your hands after loading firearms. Any type of firearm use, you want to make sure that you're actually washing your hands, washing your face, or things like that. Perhaps even changing your clothes before you sit down to eat or carry on with your day. The third mental discipline of firearms is all about nomenclature and functions knowledge. And what this is essentially talking about is, this is the A&P course for your firearms. This is the anatomy and physiology of your firearms. How do they work? What does this button do? What is every little piece called? So that you can understand how this thing actually functions. And your function knowledge is geared more towards how does it function. Is it a single action? Is it a double action? Is it a revolver? Is it a pump? Is it a fully automatic? You need to know what's going on with your firearm. How does it function? Because if you don't know how it functions, then you can't use it to all of its full potential. Now, the fourth mental discipline of firearms is situational awareness and readiness. Now, this really goes into understanding what is happening around you that is a part of your firearms application, whether you're working in a home defense, a conceal and carry situation, or whether you're in a military situation. You need to have a situational awareness that matches what exactly your firearms application is. So if you're in the military, you got a lot more things to think about. If you're in a home situation, it could be just as deadly and detrimental to you, but you still need to be aware of certain things. Over penetration. If you're firing a 9mm, that bullet is often going to go through whatever sheetrock walls. Little sheetrock walls around your house do not stop bullets. So we gotta part of what we're going to be doing as we go throughout the season is kind of debugging, deprogramming you guys' brains from what the Democrats and what Hollywood have you believe that guns are made out of magic. They're not. Guns are very scientific. We can very easily gauge what bullets can and cannot do, will and will not do, and oftentimes the things that are portrayed in TV and movies are just completely unrealistic. So we're going to have to talk about those things. Also, we're going to be talking about readiness and how you need to be prepared for the situations that are going to most likely fall into your lap one day. Most firearm situations of a self-defense nature are happening within 7 to 10 yards and within 7 to 10 seconds. That's going to be our general rule of thumb when we're training with Iron Zulu. And readiness is all about your ability to react to that 7 to 10 seconds and that 7 to 10 yards. Think about it. Now, the fifth mental discipline of firearms is talking about caliber and class. These are the types of things that you got to get into your head and understand that different firearms require different calibers. Different calibers carry different use. The general rule of thumb for you to understand with this is simple. Normally, the smaller caliber, the smaller the gun, the shorter the range. The larger the caliber, the larger the target, the larger the range. Now, sometimes this is reversed. Sometimes you want a larger caliber at a shorter distance. Sometimes you want a smaller caliber at a longer distance. It all depends on your actual application, but that's the general rule of thumb. Also, you want to understand class. So just like you got different action types, you also have different classes of guns. Short range, long range guns. One of the key factors in understanding the purpose of your class and your caliber is all about your target and your purpose. Now the sixth and final of the mental disciplines is all talking about marksmanship drills. Now, once you've ran through the whole gamut, you got your heart right, you know your application, you understand safety, you basically got all the essential things. You understand your gun, you understand how it functions. Now it's time to, right before you get your hands on the gun, understand what to do once you get that gun.